Well before the days of Photoshop, there was the very believable phenomenon of spirit photography or ghost photography. Countless family photographs or sinister portraits in which the photographers or viewers claimed spirits were present. People were fascinated with the idea of what came after death, and because photography was such a closed group back then, not everyone had access to a camera, photographers could get away with some pretty shady tricks in order to convince the general public that spirits were real. So I am here today to talk about spirit photography. Hey guys, it's Emma here, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to enlighten you all on the history of spirit photography, or haunted photography, ghost photography, psychic photography. It's all the same thing. So not only am I going to go over the history of spirit photography, I'm also going to delve into how they did it. But first, a little bit of history. It's believed it all started with one man, William H. Mumler, who is considered the first spirit photographer. In the 1860s, Mumler, who was also trained as a jeweller, enjoyed experimenting with photography, and he first captured a spirit in a self-portrait he took in 1861. Upon developing the image, he discovered a ghost-like presence in the frame, whom many claimed resembled his cousin, who had died 10 years prior to the photograph being taken. Soon this image was everywhere. It was even published in spiritualist newspapers. The image was met with both skeptics and believers alike, and regardless of their stance on the paranormal, it was still a photographic phenomenon. Mumler initially disregarded it as something on the glass plate. Maybe he hadn't cleaned it, something went wrong, who knows. But regardless of what it was, the public went mad for this image, and Mumler had himself an idea. He decided to become a full-time photographer, and he and his wife bought a studio in Boston, claiming that he was a spiritual photographer who could capture the sitter's deceased loved ones in frame with them. His wife Hannah was a clairvoyant. That's ironic. Sometimes she would even comment on the spirits surrounding these subjects that only she could see. Many other charlatans and copycats soon followed suit, and thus spirit photography was born. And at the height of his success, Mumler had a pretty lucrative con going on. Most photographs only cost around 25 cents, but he would charge $10 per sitting, which in today's money is probably around about $300 or just over. And what's more, he would claim that the spirits wouldn't always appear in the portraits with the subjects, and you might have to come back for several sittings before they show up. But of course, Mumler's work wasn't without its critics. Over time, the authenticity and believability of his images came into question. See, when he started out, the ghosts were merely shadows or pools of light, or you could just make out a face. But as time went on, they began more and more to resemble living people, and something just wasn't sitting right. Under all of the pressure and growing cynicism, Mumler moved to New York in 1868. In March 1869, he was visited by a client who seemed very much like the others. Or so it seemed. The client paid for a photograph and the spirit did not appear. And after this, the client revealed himself to be a New York City marshal working undercover to try and capture Mumler and his antics. Mumler was established as a fraud and was arrested and subsequently put on trial. This trial drew a huge crowd in and was highly publicised. You could say it was the O.J. Simpson trial of its time. After an extensive trial and investigation, Mumler was ultimately acquitted. And although he returned sheepishly home to Boston with his tail between his legs, that didn't stop him from getting up to his usual tricks. In 1871, Mumler created his most famous spirit photograph. The reason being, the sitter was none other than Mary Todd Lincoln, the widow of the former President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, who was assassinated in 1865. In the image, a faint outline of the former president is seen standing behind her. It is also thought to be the last official photograph of Mary Todd Lincoln, who died in 1882. By now, Mumler's career was rapidly in decline, and he passed away in 1884. Now, there is one thing to keep in mind here at the end of this long and winding tale, full of twists and turns. It's that although he had his critics, there was never any proof, solid proof, to say that Mumler's photographs were hoaxes. I mean, looking at them now, it's fairly obvious that they most likely were, but the point is there was never any solid official proof. He wasn't called out completely for being a charlatan. And you'd think that with that, the craze of spirit photography would just end there, but no, it's still going today, catering to gullible people, conspiracy theorists, and paranormal junkies alike. There are still countless publications such as magazines and books and websites and blogs that claim spirits can be captured on film. For example, some Japanese snapshot photographs are believed to include images of ghosts. Ghosts and the paranormal are deeply rooted in Japanese culture. These are now referenced in different medias, including manga and anime, novels and even video games. Rooted in myth and folklore, and even theatre and film. This cult craze is even referenced in the 2008 English remake of the film Shutter, where one of the central characters is sitting in an office for a magazine, surrounded by countless Photoshop artists faking these spiritual photographs. So where does that leave us at the end of this little history lesson? Well, we still have yet to go into how these images were created. In William H. Mumler's case, there are two possible answers. In his earlier photographs, it does look like a little bit of light manipulation, possibly when developing the images. But the most common method that a lot of people seem to agree with is double exposure. The photographer removes the lens cap, takes an image of the sitter, then places the lens cap back on. The lens cap is then removed again when another person enters the frame. Thus you have a double exposure. But there are plenty of other ways spirit photography can be faked. So I'm going to demonstrate a few of them in this video. And I could be authentic in using one of my film cameras, but for quickness I'm just using a DSLR. Sorry. How cute. And there you have some convincing or maybe not so convincing spiritual photography, depending on your outlook. If you want a more extensive look into the whole craze of this genre, I've left some links down in the description below of seminars, videos, articles, so on and so forth. Consume at your leisure. But thank you guys as always for watching, and if you enjoyed this video then don't forget to leave a like, hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications. My uploads are every Wednesday and most Saturdays. You can also check me out on social media and give me a follow there. I have left my handles here at the bottom of the screen, and I will also leave the links in the description down below. And with that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! So not only am I going to go over the history of spinach photography, the history of spirit photography. What's the matter with me? I'm thinking of spinach. Time to get spooky. We're getting spooky up in here.